So we're going to talk today about the Bunker Hill Mine, one of the greatest mines in American history, and certainly the crown jewel of the Silver Valley, which the Silver Valley, of course, has produced more silver and base metals than any district in American history. It's located in Shoshone County, Idaho, in the Idaho Panhandle. Our management team, which I'm part of, and Bruce Reed, our Chief Executive Officer, my partner, and another associate of ours, back in 2006, we acquired the Galena Mine, which was the second largest primary silver mine in U.S. history, in the Silver Valley, about 5 miles to the east of the Bunker Hill. We bought that from Coeur d'Alene Mines for $15 million cash. They had taken the reserves all the way down to about 9 million ounces of silver. Over the course of 2 years, we built the reserve base back up to about 55 million ounces of silver and put it back in operation at 2.5 million ounces a year, and it's still producing today. The Bunker Hill, as I said, was the crown jewel of the Coeur d'Alene mining district. Historically, the Bunker Hill produced over 36 million tons of ore, containing 3.5 million tons of lead, 2.5 million tons of zinc, and 165 million ounces of silver. So even though it wasn't a primary silver mine, it was the third largest producer of silver in the Coeur d'Alene mining district after the Sunshine and the Galena, and produced record amounts of lead and zinc. At the time the mine was closed in 1981, they were carrying about 12 million tons of SEC quality proven and probable ore reserves. And those reserves were based on actual mining samples off of ore cars that came off mining faces. None of their reserves were based on drilling, and they were all done to SEC quality standards, which, as you may or may not know, is a significantly more stringent standard than modern NI 43101 standards under the Canadian regime. We know for a fact that there are large areas of the mine that are not in the reserve picture that contain both high-grade mineralization and an opportunity to greatly expand the resource base going forward. The entire acquisition of the Bunker Hill Mine is on patented ground, and I'll get to that in a minute, why that's extremely important, particularly in the state of Idaho. And of all the mining projects I've worked on in my 30-year history in the business, the infrastructure at the Bunker Hill is unparalleled. It's 500 meters off of Interstate 90. You can drive to the portal of the mine on a paved road in a Cadillac. There are power lines right to the property. There's over 250 miles of underground workings, most of which is still in accessible condition. There's 3 working shafts with working hoists, and a substantial amount of repairs will be needed, but given the size of the opportunity and the fact that this is potentially one of the largest zinc, lead, silver mines in the world, it's going to be reopened for a tiny fraction of the cost of developing a similar mine in a greenfield site. This is again where it is. You can see it in the Idaho Panhandle there, about 75 miles south of the Canadian border. This is just a quick summary look at some of the mines historically in the Silver Valley. You can see the Bunker Hill there on the west end of the district. And if you get over near the east end of the district, you can see the Lucky Friday Gold Hunter Complex, which is Hecla's flagship operation. Now I'm going to point out that Hecla, at the Lucky Friday Gold Hunter, has just spent $400 million to sink an interior shaft to the 9,000 level to mine an 8-foot wide high-grade silver vein in extremely difficult working conditions where you have bad ground, 110-degree air temperatures, and they're mining with shrink stopes and jackleg drills, extremely labor-intensive and difficult operating conditions. The Bunker Hill, on the other hand, we're mining strata-bound zones that are anywhere from 40 to 60 meters wide, using mechanized equipment at 65-degree air temperature, and doing it all with a mechanized mining method. I asked Art Campo, our chief geologist, who's worked at both projects, I said, how would you compare Hecla's opportunity at the Gold Hunter with the Bunker Hill? He said, well, there really is no comparison. The Bunker Hill is a way better project for all kinds of reasons, and yet they've spent $400 million to sink a new shaft. We can't spend much more than about $65 million all in CapEx over the next couple of years to build a new mill and to start production on stopes that are already developed with ramp access that's already built. We believe that the Bunker Hill is way ahead of any of its peers in reviving the zinc market. First of all, it's on patented ground. Now in Idaho, if you're on private ground or patented ground, you need a total of 0 state permits. Absolutely none. We can start mining tomorrow under the Idaho permitting regime on private ground. The only permits you'd need would be federal permits for water discharge or air quality. However, there is a water treatment plant already operated by the EPA on site treating the effluent out of the mine, and our agreement with the EPA will give us full access to utilize the treatment plant for any effluent out of the mine or out of a future mill. As I said, there's nearly a century of production at the Bunker Hill, so all the mining methods that have been used in the past have been extensively studied. There were over 400 PhD theses done at my alma mater, the University of Idaho, on the Bunker Hill mine. PhD theses on metallurgy, PhD theses on mining methods, PhD theses on the geology of the Bunker Hill mine, and the 26 different ore bodies that were identified. The Quill Zone, which will be one of our immediate focuses, and I'll get to that in a minute, is a stratabound deposit that's 120 to 150 feet wide, containing primarily zinc mineralization, and we estimate that it's about $270 per ton of in situ value in zinc, lead, and silver, of which about 72% of that value would come from zinc, about 20% from lead, and about 8% from silver. And that number there of 270 is using zinc at $1.20 and lead at $1 and silver at $16, which are all lower than today's prices. Again, just to reiterate, the same management team that restored the Galena and put it back in operation 10 years ago now has control of the bunker. We've tried to purchase this mine, myself, Bruce Reed, my partner in this, we've tried to purchase this a number of times over the last 2 years, or 10 years, but quite frankly, the EPA needed to finish with their Superfund restoration before the time really became right. They spent 30 years and $1 billion on Superfund cleanup in the Silver Valley. Most of that was at the Bunker Hill smelter, which was a 1920s vintage lead smelter and a zinc plant that was torn down, completely remediated. There's now a brand new Walmart sitting where the lead smelter used to be. And they spent over $1 billion up and down the Silver Valley and recovered over $1 billion from responsible mining companies, including Asarco, Coeur d'Alene Mines, Sunshine Mining Company, Callahan Mining Company, and the most recent and the last settlement was with Hecla Mining about 2 years ago for $330 million. So we signed a definitive acquisition agreement to acquire the mine this past August. We have a 24-month lease with an option to purchase. We're paying $300,000 a quarter in lease payments and a $45 million purchase price, which we can exercise at any time we choose. Of that purchase price, $25 million goes to the underlying landowner, and $20 million paid out over time will go to the Environmental Protection Agency to partly reimburse them for the water treatment costs over the last 35 years. Why is the time now? Well, as I said, the EPA has given us a green light on the Bunker Hill. They're giving us a consent decree that exonerates us from any past liability. The zinc market, as you know, is tight. There's London Metal Exchange stocks of zinc are at a near 10-year low, and we've seen a very much increase in zinc prices over the last couple of years. And the project is effectively turnkey at this point. We have a good working relationship with the EPA and the Justice Department, which is the EPA's boss. As I said, the remediation in the Silver Valley is nearly done. We will let them continue to operate the water treatment plant for us, and we will pay them to do that. I will quickly mention that the water treatment plant is 1983 technology. They are not recovering the zinc that's in the water. There's about 3,200 pounds of zinc that goes out in the water every day. We think there's ways to recover that zinc and reduce the treatment cost. And right now, if we didn't recover the zinc, it'll cost us about $1 million a year to reimburse the EPA for operating the treatment plant. This is the reserves that were carried as proven and probable reserves in the Quill Newgard ore zone at the time the mine was closed in 1981. You can see the red were considered proven reserves, the orange probable reserves, and those were done to SEC definitions, much more conservative than any 43-101 drilling program, and the possible was in the green. The access into the mine from the track level is on what we call the 9 level, so that's where the adit goes in. So if you look at that, we're going to be mining big wide ore bodies above track level with no hoisting for at least the better part of 6 or 7 years before we even have to think about going down the shafts and accessing some of the lower reserves in the mine. Immediate focus again is the Quill, the Newgard, and the UTZ zone. They weren't carrying any reserves in the UTZ zone, but we've spent over $1 million over the last 9 months doing due diligence. We've accessed these zones, and there's at least 500,000 tons of very good grade combined zinc, lead, silver ore in the Ute zone that's immediately accessible through the Russell Tunnel. So that's probably where we will start. The reserve of 4.9 million tons of proven and probable on the Quill is between the 9 and 14 level, and that's readily accessible for near-term mining at about 1,500 tons a day. Previous mining of the Quill on all 5 levels occurred in the late 1970s and produced over 1.5 million tons of high-grade zinc ore. By the way, the zone is open at depth and open to the west for significant expansion. This was the reserve picture in 1991, the last time a reserve was done. You can see the proven and probable reserves in the Quill, and then the total zinc area reserves of 10.2 million tons. Now, the grades, as I say, the grades were done not based on drilling, but based on actual car samples coming off the last cut of the working faces. So those reports of grade are diluted grades that includes mining dilution. So we actually believe that by doing some careful grade control, we would substantially improve the grades that are being mined. Bunker also has, above track level, done 4 studies on a block cave resource they call the Sweeney, about 4% combined lead zinc and just under an ounce of silver. And that's suitable for block caving, bulk mining. That's a project for a major mining company sometime in the future. You can see the condition of the hoist. These pictures were taken in the last few months. The mine's been on care and maintenance for 35 years, but the infrastructure is still largely in very good shape, in need of minor repairs only. Again, I mentioned Idaho is an excellent jurisdiction for permitting and operating. We're 500 meters off of Interstate 90 on patented ground. There's a town, we're right in the town of Kellogg. The infrastructure is total, power, water, and an experienced workforce in the Silver Valley. And I might mention that if we want to, we will poach all of the best miners from Hecla and America Silver, because would you rather work 5 to 9,000 feet underground in 110-degree air temperature running a jackleg drill on a muck pile in bad ground, or would you rather sit on mechanized equipment and mine with long hole mining method or room and pillar on mechanized equipment at 65-degree air temperature? No question we'll get the best miners in the Silver Valley, and we'll probably bring miners in from as far away as Nevada, because the Silver Valley is a beautiful place to live. Excellent hunting and fishing, good infrastructure. Our management team, headed by Bruce Reed, my longtime partner. Bruce was the former chairman of Carlisle Goldfields, which was recently sold to Alamos Gold. He was the founder with myself and John Ryan as a former CEO of U.S. Silver. We acquired the Galena mine, put it back in operation. He was an executive director of Patricia Mining, which advanced the Island Project and sold it to Richemont. Bruce and I were founders of Western Goldfields. We bought the Mesquite mine from Newmont back in 2002. We were a little early. We sold it out to some Barrick executives. It's now the flagship operation of New Gold, producing about 200,000 ounces a year. And he was a co-founder with me and another partner of High Plains Uranium, which was acquired by Energy Metals. That's me. I've got about 25 years experience in the business, been an officer of director of public companies in 3 jurisdictions, and a bachelor's degree in history from the University of Idaho. Julio's our chief financial officer, extremely competent guy who's done this for a number of public companies. And there's our directors, John Ryan, my longtime partner as well, as an experienced mining engineer with extensive knowledge of the Silver Valley. He grew up in the Silver Valley in Wallace, When he was in college, he worked underground in the Galena mine. And John probably knows more about the Bunker Hill than any living human being. Share structure today, fully diluted, there's 26.8 million shares outstanding. We're completing a financing this week. We're currently trading under the symbol LSL for Liberty Silver. That will change. We will be Bunker Hill Mining Company and a new symbol BNKR probably sometime this week. Looks like we're out of time. We're one of the largest lead zinc silver development projects in the Americas. It's not in production. Thank you very much.